Alright guys, so yeah, I kind of explain what I've done is I've actually made a base for the grinder. I'm going to show you here. Sorry I didn't remove it, but obviously you can tell what it is. You can see that it's for the sharpening jig. You can obviously take your sharpening jig here, place it in the little dealer section here, and this here is adjustable. What I'm going to explain and show you how to make today is how to make this, and the second part will be how to make the grinder stand out of a piece of 2x6 2-inch piece of pine that is roughly 3/4 of an inch thick, and then a 45-degree angle here at the end, and some little handles so that you can tighten her down. That way you can move it in or out. And that's basically how you make your sharpening jig. Like I said, I'm going to show you how to make both of these today, so stay with me. Maybe we'll teach you something. Maybe I'll learn something. Alright, hey, what's going on, guys? I'm trying to demonstrate to you how to make a, I don't honestly know the name to it. Really what it is it goes underneath your grinder. It allows you to use your jig sharpening tool. Sharpens your lathe tools. What I'm trying to explain to you on this video is how to make, so if you see this, I hope you can, it is a adjustable arm, as you will, that goes underneath your grinder. The materials you will need is a 2x6, roughly 20.5 inches long. You can go shorter width of your grinder. You really don't have to go that big. I go wider because it keeps my grinder from vibrating. That way I don't have to put it stationary. I can set it on my table saw when I need it. I'm using oak. Oak is a really stable wood. It's not going to warp like pine will. I would recommend using a hardwood that doesn't warp very often. You know, this is kiln dried. It's 2 inches thick by 15 and 5/8 long. Now you can adjust however long you want yours to be. I'll probably cut these down to 15 even, because really that's quite long enough for me. As well, at the end you're going to need to put a 45-degree block here, center lined, dead down the center of it. You'll need to cut a dado set or a groove out the center. You can use a router. I'm going to show you how to do it with the table saw. Don't worry about the bottom. But stick around. We're going to learn something today. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this before. What you'll need to do is you'll need to actually make a dado in this low peak, the part that goes underneath the grinder, the platform. Like I said, it'd be about 2 inches thick. That's gives you some stability. That way you don't have any twist or nothing like that. But just to kind of show you what you'll need to do is you'll need to make a dado set. That way this thing is able to rock back and forth. You will be drilling out some holes. I'd recommend going with a little larger size bolt. That's what I did there. One at the front, one at the back. I'll show you how to make some handles. That way they'll stay out of the way and they'll be low profile. You'll need to run a dado on both sides. The first one I made, I only did one side just to show that I can make it, to feel comfortable doing this video. So like I said, this video is going to be broke down. I'll narrate the video, but I will speed this video up through certain parts. I'll show you how I dado it, how I make all the parts, and then like I said, if you have any comments, please leave them below. Alright, so what I wanted to explain to you was, this is an error. This is not good. If you can move your board like that, that is a no-go. Start over. Because, and the only reason I say this is because when we put the center studs in, fine, that'll hold it and that'll keep it from pivoting. But when you've got it pivoted at a little bit at an angle, a little bit over a long distance adds up. Now this other side here, that's nice and tight. We'll have to clean it up a little bit. Like I said, you want to go a little closer in. That way you can clean it up yourself. It'll be a lot easier to clean up than it will be to fix this side here. So this piece is ruined to me. Luckily I got another one. Okay, like I said, so this one here, I'm not using oak on mine. My other one was made of pine. I already had it pre-built. I'm fine with it. I'll probably go ahead and use this for this side, but I'm going to remake this board here. Like I said, you want it tight. You do not want it loose like that. You want to measure to this. You want to put this on your board. Whatever board you're using, don't go off measurements. That was my mistake. Put your board down, square it up, mark your line on both sides, cut on the inside of the lines. What I'm doing here is drawing a center line for the bolts for the grinder. That way I already have the template from the grinder. That way you have it lined up whenever you go to put the grinder on. Now remember earlier I said not to use measurements from a tape measure. That only applies to the width of the board, actual board you're using, unless you're well enough to use a tape measure. Obviously I am not. But when it comes to measuring out the distance for your grinder and the distance for the boards themselves, you want to make sure that they're centrally located underneath the wheel. You don't want them being cocked to the side of the wheel. You want them to be directly under the wheel. Now the spaces that are X'd out, those are areas where you want to put a dado. That is the width of the board. Or I mean the height of the board, I apologize. You'll want to mark that on your board and set your table saw to that height. Here I'm using a sled to help me with that cut. Makes the world a lot easier since my table saw does not accommodate a dado blade. Trust me, it helps and works well. After cutting your dados, you want to drill bolt holes to accommodate the bolts. On the back side, drill a larger hole for the nut or the head of the bolt to fit into, and a smaller shaft going through the board. That way the shaft of the bolt is able to not have free play or wobble. After you've done that, we'll go ahead and work on making the actual rails themselves. Like I said, the rails are roughly 2 inches wide by 15 inches long. Like I said, you can make it any size you want. Draw a center line and punch out an area to drill the holes through. To cut the rails out of the 2x4, you can use a router, or out of the rail you can use a router, or you can use a table saw. Here I'm using the table saw. Set your fence to where it's center lined and carefully set the rail down on the blade, not allowing the blade to get your fingers obviously, or allowing the board to come to you. Don't cut all the way through to the end of the board. Obviously you'll weaken the structure. Continue doing that, moving the fence away from the blade to widen your hole, flipping the board if needed. Then you can take a chisel or a punch and chisel it out. The pine one gave me no trouble. It was very soft, but the oak one is giving me a little more trouble. Make sure your tool is very sharp when you do this. That way you don't have an ugly looking board like I ended up with. Try to trim it up as best as possible, but isn't necessary. After you've done the first one, obviously, make a second one. That way you can put one under both grinding wheels. Just repeat the steps I showed you before. Here we're making the 45-degree angle parts that go at the end of the rail. Once again, I'm using the sliding sled I made, and I'm using walnut. It is also a wood that doesn't shrink or move as much as pine does. Check for fitment at the end of the board, making the 45-degree angle boards wide enough, but not too wide. You don't want them overhanging, or me personally, I just don't like it. It looks not as pretty. Once you've done that, continue to trim the 45-degree angle pieces down until you get the proper fitment. Now I have to add, use proper safety when doing this. Obviously I am not. If you have the ability to hold the board down with a clamp or something, please do. I do not condone this in any manner. If you do this at your own risk. I am just demonstrating and showing you how I have done it. After you've got them properly placed, trim a backplate board. This is not necessary, but structurally it will help. Trim it to size. I personally just use the parts and mark it. But once you have it trimmed to size, go ahead and take those parts over to the sander and clean them up. Take the rough edges off. Don't sand too much to where you mess with the 45-degree angle that you need. It can be a wider angle, but 45 degrees is a pretty tight angle when it comes to movement of the board. Here I'm gluing the back plate on and brad nailing it in. At this point you'll want to make handles to lock your rail into place. What I've used is walnut and embedded a nut in it. Use the same concept with the bolts going through the base of the frame or the underside of the grinder. Use the same method that I use. Larger on one side, smaller on the other. An easy trick to use is to take a small drill bit, run it completely through it. That way you have a center line or a marking line that goes all the way through. After punching the smaller hole through the piece of walnut, take your larger bit and drill the depth of the nut through one side of the board, as seen. Obviously the nut that I dropped in there was the wrong size nut. Once you have done that part, switch to the smaller Forstner bit, go to the opposite side of the board where the small hole that was drilled through, and finish drilling the hole out. Now this project can be inexpensive or expensive. If you have a lot of scraps like me, I save my scraps for projects like this. It's obviously really inexpensive. The walnut, I've always saved small chunks of walnut. I'd recommend doing so for small projects like this. So once the holes for the nuts are drilled, place them on a hard surface. Take the nut and tap it in with a large hammer. It should go right into place. Just make sure the hole that you drill is a little bit smaller than the actual nut. That way the wings of the nut can dig in and make its own spot. You can add glue to it as well if you'd like. After finishing the holes for the bolts, take the little handles over to the sander and sand them up. I use the lathe with a piece of sandpaper on a faceplate. Works well for me. Take your time and shape them the way you want them to look. Remember, when they spin, they have the ability to hit the grinder. So think about the length of the actual arm you're trying to make. Don't make them too long to where they hit the grinder and you're not able to spin them. Don't make them too short where you're not able to actually get any leverage and spin them as well. Once again, take time and enjoy shaping them. Make them as pretty as you like. If you want them square and ugly, leave them square and ugly. Both will work just fine. What I did at the end of the video was soak them in linseed oil, and then I polished them in beeswax, and they turned out rather nice. I also put beeswax on the rails, but I'm going to recommend against doing the rails because when you go to sharpen the tools, they just get nasty. Alright, we got it finished, at least for this part. Next part will be the actual jig itself. The little handles, I made them out of walnut. Like I said, all they did was put a little nut inside of them. An oak and walnut. But you loosen it off, pull wherever, set it where you want, tighten it back down. Good to go. You can buy one of these. I don't think they're terribly expensive. If you want one made, you want me to make you one, by all means, put it in the comment below. I'll make you one and send it to you. Alright guys, did you enjoy the video? I did. Thank you. Yeah, so if you have any questions about the project that I did, I know I explained to you in the video that I was going to as well build the jig. Well, I ended up building the bottom part first. The jig itself, it's going to take a little bit more of a video. You know, the video I just did took a little longer too. I tried to break it down to where you could see me building every part and me at least explain to you the key parts and components needed. I might have messed up on a little bit of wording, width instead of, or height instead of width. Other than that, yeah, I'll have that pointed out, I'm sure, but that's okay. That's a flaw on me. You know, I've never really had an interest in doing wood turning until about 2 years ago. I've seen some of the nicest wood get burned, and it never crossed my mind to say, hey, I can do something with that. You know, I was a fabricator, a metal fabricator, a welder, an automotive mechanic. I've done it my whole life. That's all I know. And 2 years ago, I seen a gentleman make a bowl on a wood lathe, and that bowl just pondered and ate at me, and I had to make that bowl. Sorry, it's a little cold. I just got off work, so I probably look tired. But anyways, so I had to make that bowl. I had to come up with a way to make that bowl. I didn't have the money to buy the wood lathe at the time. So I had a friend that wanted a go-kart fixed. Well, I went to fix that go-kart. He asked me, what do you want? I told him, I want a wood lathe. He said, okay, go pick one out. Let me know the price. It's yours. So, me, I'll tell you, I went down to Harbor Freight. I bought me a wood lathe, which I am very pleased with. It has done me great for any project that I've tried to do. It doesn't handle the bigger projects, but maybe bolting it to the floor might help. That probably is my issue there. Yeah, so once I did that, man, it was on. From duck calls to jewelry boxes to the types of woods I want. I got to go to a wood store that held you know, exotic woods and stuff like that. And I mean, man, it's gone from there. And it's gone great for me too. You know, you put a little effort into something and doors start opening. Things start becoming a little clearer and a whole lot easier. And for anybody that's watching this video and they're wanting to try to get into the same thing, you know, I don't say there's money involved in it. I haven't been paid yet by nobody, nor is that the purpose of this video. I do want sponsors, and the only reason I want sponsors is to show to others and to show to myself that I earned that. You know, it's great to be sponsored by somebody. I plan on having a few large sponsors sponsor me in the near future. I know it's coming. I know I'm going to put some videos out there that you guys are going to love, and I hope this is one of them. So my next video I do will be over the jig that I promised you. It is the jig that goes to the grinder jig. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed how to make it. I did say in the video, do not put beeswax on it, because like I said, it's just, I mean, you can wipe it off. It's not that bad, but it makes the iron dust a little gooey, and I just didn't want it to stain it. It's still pretty. I'd put polyurethane on it if you're going to do it. That way you can just blow it off, and it's good to go. Put it away for when you don't need it. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll be trying to put a video out once a week. I know this week I'll be at least putting out the jig video and possibly one more. Please share this to all your friends. If you know any friends that do any woodworking, maybe my ideas might become their ideas, and their ideas might become my ideas. You know, I'm open to sharing. Any of my projects that you've seen me made, please, by all means, make them. I don't own the rights to them. I made something. You know, it's not that I made something and I want to stamp it and make money off of it and nobody else can. If you can make money off of it, well, if I made it, please don't go out and stamp it and make money for yourself. This is a freely given product to use. So, yeah, so please don't do that. I think it would ruin the whole, you know, vibe of woodturners sharing ideas. And to me, it's a therapeutic way for all of us to be able to do something that we all love. Maybe we can all get together, go to a class or something, or teach a class, or, you know, hell, just get together and turn some stuff. So, yeah, like I said, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions that need answered, please leave it in the comments below. And as always, thank you. You have a good day.